Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Dan.
This
Stone.
is Dexter from The Offspring.
Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Labb.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick
I'm
Gillette.
Christopher
This is
Knopf.
Dr. Bob Greenberg.
I'm Laird Hamilton.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
I said, hey, Dave, I talked to him yesterday. Tomorrow I'm going to go to Andy Summers' house. I thought he'd be all excited about that. He said, oh, that's great, man. And we're going to see Allee Willis. He lost his mind.
Because he has a great mind.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
We are in the lovely home and personal studio of the wonderful and talented Allee Willis. And Allee, I'm overwhelmed.
Big crowd.
I'm overwhelmed.
Can we be the first to officially record and say congratulations on being inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame?
Well, you're not the first, but I accept those congratulations.
All right.
Okay.
And thank you. I'm very
Someone else
excited
recorded
about
it first, but we're still in the club.
No, yeah, you're in the front of the pack, though.
Good
Okay.
enough.
So the induction into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, for our listeners, came from a body of work that resulted in hits for so many artists and such a diverse crowd of artists, to include James Brown, Bonnie Raitt, Herbie Hancock,
Earth, Wind and
Fire,
Pointer Sisters,
the Pet Shop Boys,
the
Rembrandts,
Cyndi Lauper. I can't think of anyone. I need to go read.
You know what?
Wall.
I didn't know about Cyndi Lauper, but of course, Cyndi Lauper.
Well, it was toward the end of her big run.
Uh-huh.
But she stayed in this house, or I stayed at her place off and on for a couple of years. That album, I think, was called Hatful of Stars.
Okay.
4 or 5 songs on there.
But
the gigantic hits were, though, Earth, Wind and Fire,
Boogie Wonderland, September, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's pause on that for a moment.
I'll tell you. I love all my little babies, but nothing like September.
Yeah.
Because I don't care how old you are. You're 2 years old. You know that song.
Yeah.
And
well, if you had
every bar mitzvah,
anything resembling solid parenting, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty. That song has brought me great joy. It's opened many a door.
I bet.
So. Yeah, and plus getting a chance. What happened was I started writing with Verdine White, bass player, founding member to this day. He said, I'm going to tell my brother about you.
Right.
But, I was at that time, I was on food stamps, medical assistance, like as close to welfare as you could be without actually being on it. And we had only written together like for a couple of days.
I just want to tell the 5 people in our audience, because 99% of our audience knows exactly who Verdine White is, but for the 5 of you out there who do not, I just want to point something out, just that'll give you a lot. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm positive right now Verdine White is wearing a red sequin suit.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, we bonded on style.
Sure.
Like, immediately. Some of my best musical hookups have been because we either dressed similarly or we collected vintage furniture or, like things outside of music that then made the musical bond even better. But, he says, I'm going to tell my brother about you. Earth, Wind and Fire were absolutely my favorite group. Maurice White, favorite soul singer of all time. I think completely underrated.
That voice was just
staggering.
Oh.
That's the way.
Well, he had so many talents.
That's
why.
Song.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's why he's underrated as a singer, because he did everything else so well.
Yeah. So, Verdine told me that, and then literally within a week or two of me working with Verdine, that's exactly what happened. The phone rang, and the entire conversation was, is this Allee Willis? Yes. Okay. It's Maurice White. And then he asked me, not if I wanted to write a song. He asked me to write the entire next Earth, Wind and Fire album with him.
Wow.
I hung up the phone and I couldn't believe what had just happened. And it was the I Am album, which was really the album that kind of crossed them over.
You have got to be kidding me.
There were 2 songs I didn't write on that, but the rest of it I co-wrote. It was amazing. So at the beginning of that year, which was 1978, I was on the, close to welfare. And the end of the year, I'd sold 10 million records. So still getting the food stamps and on medical assistance because that money is so delayed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
How delayed?
I don't remember things like kind of really picking up for at least, I'd say, 6 months. I mean,
Wow.
I could at least start getting advances on stuff.
Yeah.
And then, once you have...
So you could get some food in your belly, but...
Yeah, and then, of course, everyone wants to write with you, and it's all my friends, we
The
all kind
watershed.
of hit at the same time. But having it be with Earth, Wind, and Fire, oh, my God.
Did you just get them? Or what was it that makes... I mean, it's one thing to write September, and it's this incredible thing, but how did that go between you guys and the band?
Well, for me, it was so thrilling. It was crazy. I asked him a few years later why he chose me. There were a few artists who were kind of talking about me.
Yeah.
Like Patti LaBelle earlier that year was the first artist to start regularly doing my songs. And she had introduced me to Herbie Hancock, and I wrote a bunch of things on that. But there was nothing that would indicate that all of a sudden I would start having these hits. And I mean like one after the other. But I asked him a couple of years later why he had chosen me. And he said to me, I meaning him, had a vibe that you were a communicator and that things were supposed to come through you. He used me mostly for lyrics, whereas I was someone who wrote both music and lyrics, so that eventually got very frustrating for me. Boogie Wonderland, though, that was an exception. I wrote that with John Lynn, where we both wrote music, we both wrote lyrics, and brought that, to the group. That was the one outside song on there.
Yeah.
But
I want to make our listeners aware that they should go ahead and close their mouths, because if you're sitting there mouth agape at how this kooky white lady wrote these absolute funk juggernauts.
yeah,
There's
a logical explanation
That's
for that.
let's hear it.
Here we go.
Yeah. First of all, I have to say, I never learned how to play. To this day, I can't play. I hear every single note in my head. I hear every note of the arrangement. I hear every note of everything.
Okay, hold on. Don't go past that yet.
Okay.
Does it come in one download like you just know it, or does it sequence out as
Sequence out.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll hear something first, whether it's a melody or a string line or a bass line, or something. Sequence out. Ideally, I'm working with someone who is a great player and who understands me, because I certainly can't explain it in musical terms.
Let's take Verdine and Maurice White, for instance.
Well,
Please,
but that
continue.
was different because when they brought me in for lyrics.
Oh, okay.
So, which there was no way I was going to say, no to that.
Yeah.
Right.
But as the years progressed, I felt that was kind of a waste of me, especially with all the hits I was having. But, but I was so grateful to them. I never came right out and said, look, you're not using me for enough of what I do. I was just so thankful to be in there. If it were me today, I would have said, absolutely not. This has to be music and lyrics. I can serve you way better, doing that.
And are you still actively writing songs for people today?
I am more active now than I have been in, decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is the incredible thing. One of the conversations we have with a lot of artists and people who appreciate artists, are you a better songwriter now than you were 20 years ago, 30 years ago?
No question.
Right.
Absolutely no question. But you know what made me a better songwriter?
Please.
Being able to co-write The Color Purple, the musical.
Okay.
Because, which I did on the music end with Brenda Russell and Stephen Bray, and it's about 85% music, that show. I am not a theater person at all. Ask me what shows I've seen since The Color Purple has opened.
Go ahead. How many? What
The Color
are they?
Purple.
That's it.
Yes, I'm not a theater person at all. But the opportunity...
I saw a Tony Award.
The Color Purple. But I had only seen 3 musicals in my life before that. I don't understand people breaking into songs.
So you're
gotta
not
talk to Pete
a
for a
musical
minute.
person, and you're not a musician.
I don't know how to do anything I do. I sold over 1,000 pieces of art before someone said because I used to go into the art store and constantly bitch that they did not have a certain shade of pink that I used all the time. And finally, this is after waiting on me for 10 years, the same sales lady says to me, Allie, you understand that you mix colors together to get other colors. And I was like, you're kidding.
Thousands of pieces of art later.
Idea.
I need to talk to Pete for a minute. I love Allee Willis.
Me too. As soon as I know how to do something, I get bored. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of, as frustrating it is, I really wish I knew how to play.
Right.
It's very frustrating. You walk into a room and, we were in I was in Africa actually last month because the Color Purple just opened there. And we're coming back and we're flying through the Paris airport.
Right.
And they have a big piano there. And there's all these idiots playing these horrible things. You can tell the ones that think they're songwriters or composers, and they're kind of going over the same thing. And I'm sitting 5 feet away, and I can't get up and play September.
Right.
Stuff like that. Or if I have an idea and I'm not working with someone who gets the way that I talk or express myself, that idea will never come across.
Right. Yeah, you need the catalyst.
Yeah, it gets frustrating there. But the paint thing, the you mix the colors together, it literally led to a whole new period in my art because all of a sudden I had thousands of more colors to work with.
It's like telling a race car mechanic, it's because the oxygen and the gasoline burn. And they go, no shit.
I just thought it went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's mind-boggling.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know. Almost everything I do, I don't know how to do properly.
So this is what's great because I hate musicals.
I love them.
I
hate them.
I feel very funny.
I don't get
talking
people
about
bursting
this
into song either.
The producer of The Color Purple, they would never want me to do interviews because that would be the first thing out of my mouth. I certainly appreciate them much more now. I kind of understand. They're classic musicals. West Side Story.
Right.
Pajama Game, Oklahoma. I love the music to those things. But contemporary musicals just kind of left me cold. But the opportunity came up to write The Color Purple. That story is so great. You've got this whole history of it, translated into pop culture. But there are exceedingly strict rules in musicals that if you don't follow, the critics will annihilate you. So, for instance, in pop music, and that has nothing to do with pop music. It's two completely different forms. Okay. So pop music, of course, is filled with near rhymes. Right. The house does not have, what does house rhyme with?
Mouse.
House and mouse.
You can do that, but you can't.
You can't do house and house, or you know what I mean. You can't.
But you can now. Thanks, Eminem. But you're saying that when you bend the rules in musicals, you don't get.
There are certain rules of musicals you cannot bend.
Mm-hmm.
The critics will kill you, and also the audiences, people that go to musicals regularly. Yeah. Look for certain things happening at certain times in musicals. Mm-hmm. The position of the song.
Right.
You can't interchange song number 1 with song number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you think it works better for the character or whatever. Certain things have to be accomplished in every single spot.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think for a lot of pop writers, like I actually read a review today, Bryan Adams just did Pretty Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And the critic slaughtered him because it's filled with pop music, but that's not the same as theater music. You can use elements that you have from pop songwriting, but you need to adapt to the medium you're creating it for.
Right.
Okay.
But that,
another reason I hate musicals.
However, boy, did that turn me into a good songwriter. Especially the rhyming thing. Because you can come up with a near rhyme relatively quick, but sometimes for a perfect rhyme, it would take us 4 or 5 days of 10-hour days to finally get something where you would never do that with a pop song.
Yeah.
You would have settled after 10 minutes, you
right.
know. I realized it just made me so much more aware of structure, rhyme schemes. I just myself feel so much stronger as a songwriter having written it. And it was one of the great experiences of my life. I mean, I actually loved writing a musical.
Yeah.
And can appreciate how people can appreciate them.
Well, I have to, it just popped into my head that I have to shout out D. Edward, who is a great loyal listener, good friend, previous and future guest, recurring guest, and his favorite album is I Am. So I just want to say his name and attach it to this show. That's for you, D.
Thank you, D.
Also, I am glad that your revelation about rhyme schemes happened after you rhymed home and stone. I just want to say that out loud.
I didn't even realize
Okay.
that. There was a song I did not understand. You know, when I first met him, literally the first thing Maurice White said to me was, "How much do you know?" Because you're talking about In the Stone, right?
Yes.
Maurice White asked me how much I knew about Eastern philosophies. And at this time in my life, so unevolved. I knew nothing about any of that stuff, which they love to explore in their lyrics. I mean, I always say I was like as evolved as pop rocks, you know. So he sent me, there used to be a store here in LA called the Bodhi Tree that was the big spiritual store. And he gave me a list of books to get. This was on the first day and that we met. And I went in there. I can see the book right here. The main one that he made me get was called...
Did he give you some money? Because you were on food stamps and he sent you to a store to buy a bunch of books.
No. Had to go buy these books that I did not understand a word of. The first book, though, was called The Greatest Salesman in the World. I literally thought it was about advertising. I thought, I'm ready to go. Here, I studied this in college. But no, it wasn't. But In the Stone, for all of the songs on the I Am album, was the one that reflected his philosophy based on the Eastern philosophies the most. So we were writing lyrics in that song, and I wanted to write like great pop songs. And it's a very spiritual lyric in that song. So I never knew what that song was about. It took me about 30 years, and I was finally evolved, and I went, oh my God, it's the greatest like lyric ever.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was very much following his lead and just making sure everything rhymed, albeit near rhymes. But I'm so happy. Plus, it's got the single greatest intro of any song.
Absolutely.
Ever.
That is
written.
the fanfare
Ever.
to open the show, to let everybody in the universe know, God damn it, we have arrived.
Yeah. I once... I saw the USC marching band, and they were actually performing.
And they're 188 pieces.
Yeah, incredible. They were performing at an event for a friend of mine who was an alumni of USC, and he was just given a chair at the university. He was this very famous architect, and it was in the train station downtown.
Wow.
At the time when the train station hadn't been renovated yet.
Okay.
So it was just this shell of this building. And the USC marching band comes through, and the sound is just like reverberating all over. And all of a sudden, I realized they're playing In the Stone, which, as far as I knew, I didn't think anyone even knew that song because it wasn't as big as like September Boogie Wonderland or, you know. So I went up to the marching band after, and they said, no, you know, it's in the top 5 marching band songs of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's where you get to showcase your brass section.
And it is. I mean, every now and then I'll go on YouTube and just search for marching bands. Thousands of them
if they're good at it.
In the Stone, because especially the intro, even if they're bad, it's just this majestic.
Yeah, if there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Trumpets, da-da-da, tubas, da-da-dum.
Yeah, and then it breaks into the rhythm. It's so unbelievable. Yeah, that was me, Maurice, and David Foss.
Oh, man. I got goosebumps just now. I love that song so much because of that. I remember when I first heard it, that was the vision in my head was exactly that. It was almost like the band coming down from the ceiling of the auditorium as if from a spaceship.
Yeah. Which I'm sure they did the first time.
Oh,
they
yeah,
performed
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Before they levitated Verdine.
Yep.
And
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing.
When you write with somebody else, David Foster, whoever it's going to be, what are you grabbing from them? Because surely your guys' skills stick to each other and you keep things.
It really depends on if we're starting a song from scratch or I'm coming into something that someone wrote already.
Are you a tune-up person? They bring you in to tune things up?
Oh, my nickname used to be the Rock Dog. And I did it because, first of all, I got to work with everyone in the world. I was getting over 100 songs cut a year, which meant I was writing hundreds more.
Yeah.
And at first, it was great because I was just, my name was all over.
You're in demand, yeah.
And I was meeting incredible people. But it's also, it very quickly turned to getting less and less inspired. I'm just, stamping these things out like hamburger. It was a blessing in disguise because I have to do something more than music. Just being a songwriter is not going to cut it for me. At the time you have that thought, it's pretty torturous. But in retrospect, it led me to do all these other things, which I never, ever, ever would have been doing.
That's what I was going to ask is, at the point in your career, being an absolute multimedia artist, what inspires you? What makes you go, I love this?
It's usually something that I have previously said I hated.
Okay. So you've proven you're like us. You have no idea what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, because I don't pay attention to it.
We do that so often.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm going to be like, wow, this morning I woke up and show tunes.
Yeah.
Probably
no, I
not,
mean,
though.
it's the things that I just paid no attention to.
Right.
That because of circumstance or a friend of mine being interested, somehow exposing me to it, me kind of figuring out my own way to do it, and then always wanting to incorporate all art forms into one single expression. Just kind of toying with it, and then, okay, this works. Like the art on its own, which is how it started, it was just another thing to do besides music. But very quickly, after I did a few pieces, it was like, no, I got to figure out some way to integrate this, with the music. And my solution was to motorize the art pieces. I started painting at the tail end of 1983. Stayed up all night, did my first piece, and I was writing with Jane Weedland of the Go-Go's.
Sure.
And she walked in the next day. We always had very similar tastes. She collected, vintage just like I did. And she said, who painted that? Because I had it like taped on the wall. So I didn't sell her the first piece, but she was the first one to commission me. And then I kind of had a built-in audience because I was writing with all these people. And that was the time, this was the 80s. So, art was like, pop art was so
That's
big.
when everybody figured out who Andy Warhol was.
Yeah.
They went, oh, we want to get some art around here.
But the very first...
So you've also benefited from tremendous timing.
In terms of the art, yes. And Andy Warhol, by the way, was someone who I walked past a store. It was LAI Works, which is on Melrose, a glass store. Great glasses, great friends. They gave me my very first art show. And the piece that I did, the main piece for that show was Neutron Dance because the song was just coming out. And I did my own motorized version of it. It's huge, like 8 feet by 10 feet, weighed 450 pounds. I mean, it was a beast. And I'm walking past LAI Works and I looked in, and because it's an all glass front, and there was Andy Warhol standing in front of that piece, literally just staring at it. And I stood outside for like 10 minutes, just like,
and stared at him staring at the piece.
Well, they used to do his glasses, so he was always going in there. And then I finally had the nerve to walk in, and we were introduced, and he says, you're a genius, and told me to like call the magazine, and I was too shy, and I didn't get it together.
Wow.
And then he was soon gone. I wanted to tell you something in conjunction with that, and I can't remember. Oh, that where I realized how to put the art and the music together was at my very first art show. It was a group show, so it wasn't just my show. But I was very excited. It's at this fancy gallery in Santa Monica. And but I was a party thrower, so I was used to these kind of very wild, colorful events. And this art opening, very tame, lots of wine and cheese. You know, mine would have been like candy and hot fudge being thrown all over the room. I remember standing outside and looking in and thinking, because at that point, again, I didn't understand I was going to merge the two.
Right.
And I was so miserable songwriting at that point because I was just writing these hundreds of songs. A lot of times to music I didn't think was necessarily that good. So the art was an escape from it as opposed to something that I wanted to combine with it. And I remember looking in and thinking, oh, God, if this is what being an artist is, and these kind of tame, quiet, wine and cheese with maybe some grapes or something, it's like, this isn't going to do it for me. And at that moment, I know exactly where I was standing. I thought, oh, that's what I have to do. I have to take my music and I have to draw my interpretation of it, and I'm going to make it move. So the music's always going to be, playing.
Yeah.
And Neutron Dance, was about to come out. So that was the first one I did. I also did Stir It Up, which the Hard Rock bought. So that used to be in the Hard Rock on Beverly. I did What Have I Done to Deserve This? I mean, from that point on, if I had a big song, I basically did
a piece of
a
art
motorized
to the company.
piece until I started doing the same thing with the art that I did with the music, which was just stamping them out. And then it was like,
bored,
I can't do this anymore.
Done.
Yeah.
But that was a faster lesson this time, right? Like you recognized
I
it?
understood what was happening. I was still very much filled with angst as an artist. Like, why doesn't this fulfill me? And then I was literally sitting next to someone at a dinner party, and they knew about my house and my collection. And they said, have you ever art directed a video before? And I said, no, but I would love to. And they said, I'm directing a Debbie Harry video on Saturday. If we shoot it at your house, I'll make you the art director. So it not only led to a music collaboration with Debbie Harry, it led to a whole career, production designing, art directing. And then technology came in. And once technology came in, which for me was 1991, then all bets were off.
Yeah.
Then I pretty much dropped out almost all of the 90s to prototype a social network, which was very early for 1991.
Yeah.
And Mark Cuban was my CEO. And between the two of us, we couldn't get arrested. We would go around to record companies, TV networks, movie studios. Radio isn't going to be as significant. No one's going to go buy an actual, record. Even the very few people who understood that maybe you could advertise online, my thing was, it's not about taking the old medium and gluing it onto the new medium. It's a social space, which no one got, because this was before there were any visuals at all online. There were message boards. Basically.
Message boards, if that.
Yeah.
And nobody even knew what those were.
Yeah, see, but I looked at that and I saw, someone's from Mexico, someone's from Tokyo.
We could be
someone's
connecting
from
people here.
Pomona,
Sure.
all these people can be in the same space. And I was looking for a way to get the parties out of my backyard. So that's what led me to it.
Hang on just a second.
Yeah.
Pete, what in the hell is with Allee? How did Mark Cuban was the...
Mark Cuban, Andy Warhol, Andy Summers.
Yeah. I feel
so
like
fun.
this is
many
like...
Andys in my life.
Yeah. Andy Griffith?
No.
Okay, that's a good try. That's a good try.
No.
I was trying to get far.
I feel like you're a magnet for amazing talent. Now, whether that talent knows exactly what it's supposed to be doing in the universe at the time that it crosses you, who knows?
Most of my significant ones did not know what we were, but we were drawn together. In Mark's place, he had just made his first millions. He made $30 million. He, on $350, convinced Ross Perot, this was in Texas, that he should network his building. And no one knew what that was, tying computers together. I mean, no one understood that. And then he sold that company like a year later to CompuServe for $30 million. So at that point, he didn't have to work anymore. He was just looking for interesting things to do.
Right.
And then someone told him, about this chick who said the internet is a place to live. Which, when I tell you, no one was saying that.
No one was saying that.
At that point.
I remember that. No one was saying
until 1994.
I was saying that. I remember when I first could get porn on the internet, and I went to live
this
here.
was way pre-porn.
Okay.
This was way pre-porn.
I'm just making jokes.
This is like you have a computer because you can put your recipes on it era,
and you couldn't even do that then. I mean, again, this was...
monochrome screens.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being one of the very first beta testers for Java. I mean, this was like way back. But to me, I was just looking for new ways to do music and art. And I thought, I know how to throw parties. I know how to do art. I know how to do music.
And I'd like to get all these cotton-picking people out of my backyard.
Look at cyberspace.
It's bigger.
Anything on it was so cold. And so I just wanted to make it comfortable for normal people to be there, because I thought it would be a great place for people to meet each other, to exchange ideas, to collaborate.
Absolutely.
But way ahead of the curve.
That's some amazing foresight, but way too early.
Way too early. Yeah. So, there you go.
The amazing tie-ins that you're able to spin in this tale of your... I never got the answer to what the heck brought you out here. This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business, or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
Oh, because when I was in New York, I got the job at the record company. Mm-hmm. Then I heard the song Alone Again Naturally, Gilbert O'Sullivan. Loved that song. It was like the biggest record of the year, like 1972, 73. Mm-hmm. I wrote my own lyric to it, and I called up a friend who had... the only one I knew that played piano. Yeah. And said, you want to write a song? He brought the sheet music over to Never Can Say Goodbye. Mm-hmm. And we started at the end of the song, and he just basically played the chords backwards. I can write a melody to anything. If the table collapsed now, I could write the melody to it. So wrote that song, wrote a couple songs, got a record deal without them knowing who I was. Had to then quit because I was working at Columbia, which turned into Sony. Mm-hmm. So from that point, and then I lost the deal because the album didn't sell that well. I was terrified of performing at that point. And then I got a job working I was working in comedy clubs. I was working in cabarets. There was a big cabaret in New York called Reno Sweeney. I was either the hat check girl or the one going around the city, like slapping the posters up, Yeah. And I just thought, if I'm going to starve to death, I'm going to do it in the sunshine. Okay. Like, I have had it with this freezing stuff. Yep. And then I came out here, and immediately it was like the world opened up, just because it was so much easier to live out here, And it took a few years, and then, 1978, that was the magic year.
It started to take hold.
Yeah.
What artistic things out in front of you where you're like, I wish I had the time to do that because that really seems neat?
My thing isn't so much that as I wish not funding it myself, because most of my things that I consider you really pulled it off, I've had to fund. So I am eternally broke. Right. I never really got much beyond, the food stamp level because you're into the next thing. Every penny I make goes into the next thing. Right. My dream is that I would get funded to do something the level that I know I'm capable of, which is not just bringing me in for music or just bringing me in for a set, but letting me combine my technology with the art, with the music, with the social directing, and letting me go. So that's always what I'm working toward. That's what my Detroit project was all about. That's the closest to it I've gotten.
That thing was enormous.
It was enormous, and it was took me 5 years, and I funded the whole thing. So as incredible as it was, it was like the more successful it got, the more people that participated in it, I was just digging financially a deeper and deeper hole.
Right.
So I have finally, this is only a couple months old, but I've held to it. It's like, no, I can't do that. I'm too old to do that. I'm still proceeding as if I'm 21 and kind of living a few steps up, but basically the same way. It's like I need to be a little more secure. But it's interesting because now I've taken that attitude, and it does feel like, they always say, you make room for it, and it comes in. So I'm trying to make room for that. But I will say that the one thing that a self-funding artist has is ultimate creative
freedom.
Control. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, in terms of art, but also music too, like a two-piece question. What do you see out there? You're like, oh, I wish I would have created that. Like, oh, that song is, I should have thought of that.
I know there's tons of things I have never been able to answer that question.
Yeah.
Same way if you say to me, who are your favorite artists? My head just goes blank.
Yeah.
There certainly are a lot of them. Yeah. But I can't. We could sit here an hour, my head would still be blank.
That's fair enough.
I'm a TV person. I watch a lot of TV. Like this whole binge watching thing, I was born to do this.
Yeah.
Not invented it, but sure, as far as the habit of participating in it, yeah.
You get sucked in pretty good.
Real good.
So what are you watching?
God, I'm going to say things that are very typical. Not that there's a new season of it, but like Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
Or, stories that I end up watching a lot of detective stuff, which is not typical of me because I like, comedies and light things a lot more. But things like The Killing and once I get sucked in. My all-time favorite, though, has nothing to do with serious at all, other than I'm serious. Trailer Park Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. First of all, there are so many episodes of it. There are like 15 seasons of it.
Yeah.
Then all the specials they do, all the movies they do. It's like a baby with a whatever pacifier.
Mm-hmm.
Put Trailer Park Boys on. I will stop whatever I'm doing. I also love live car chases. You can get me to stop anything.
You are from LA.
Wow.
I guess so. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Mike C? She loves live car chases.
Oh my God.
There's a producer who he plays keyboards for O'Brien right now, and he's been on the show. And since we've become friends, I've gotten sucked into these live car chases.
Oh, it's so good.
And the first time that I got into one, I want to say that damn car chase lasted like an hour and a half.
Well, those are the great ones.
I could not pull myself away from this thing.
Here's what it is for me. First of all, I compare all the stations.
Mm-hmm.
So each room has a different station on. And I'm completely fascinated by who has the best shot, who has the best commentary, who's the best helicopter pilot, But it's insane to me because they're not going to get away. Though I have seen a few where they have very successfully.
How about that guy a couple weeks ago who drove into the train tunnel? I was watching.
They never caught him. Did they?
I don't know what happened. Yeah. I think maybe like the next day or something they figured it out.
Well, that's the other thing that's fascinating. For as much as the attention is galvanized on that, you hear no follow up.
Right.
But the train got the couple. They were
because the train came out.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, where'd they go?
Yeah. Well, because they thought they knew about some doors under there, and about 2 months before that, there was someone who went like around Hollywood and Gower. They went under the underpass, and then that's the last you saw of them. But the ones that drive like really crazy and
they have stuff falling off of their car and sparks flying and the tires were flat long time ago.
No, and then they walk out like little pussies at the end, just like, I give up. It's like, oh, God.
I love when the helicopter guy's like, oh, my God, I can't look. And then he keeps looking.
Because when they slam into...
yeah.
But it's shocking that there aren't more accidents. I mean, that's rare that they hit anything, and they're going like 120.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So.
We got the car chases.
Yeah.
There is no bounds when you talk to you. Like, there's
absolutely none.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I know one song we didn't bring up.
Oh, what's that?
The Friends theme.
Oh, yeah.
I'm only bringing that up because I know you're going to like get home and go, we
did. God damn it. We had Allee Willis right in our grasp and we didn't talk about the Rembrandts. And the fact that you wrote I'll Be There For You, did you write that for the Rembrandts or did you write that and then it ended up with them?
This was that was 1994, coinciding with me really wanting to never be a songwriter again. Because I was so into the internet.
So here's what you ought to do when you never want to be a songwriter again. You write the theme for the biggest TV show ever with the catchiest theme song that's ever happened. And it explodes and then goes into syndication.
But
what you ought to do.
Almost no one connected to that song wanted anything to do with it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the Rembrandts got it because they were the only Warner Brothers group that happened to have been in town when it had to be recorded.
Wow.
I only got it. Well, there were two reasons. One, I really needed to get out of my deal because trying to figure out the internet in 1994 was a 94-hour-a-day job. Yeah. And it was the first time I had a song quota, which in the past wouldn't have been a problem because I was a machine. But by that point, I wasn't interested in anything that was linear, anything that was non-interactive. And it got down to where I owed a seventh of a song, which happens because you could write with one person, but if there's 9 people in the group, they can all end up on the label, and that's it.
So you owed for your deal 1/7 of
I
one
owed
song.
a seventh of a song. Friends was a Warner Brothers show. I was signed to Warner Chappell. One of the 3 producers of the show called Warner Chappell looking for a commercial yet quirky songwriter. Anyone would use that word, I would get the gig every time.
Right.
But this particular producer, I had been put with he was my mentor. I won the AFI Women's Directing Award a few years before in 1991. They pick 10 women, 10 men every year. And I'm the only one in history to give the award back because if you were a man, you got $10,000 and you got to shoot on film. If you were a woman, you got $5,000 and you had to shoot on video.
Come on.
Yeah.
So I said, fuck you, and I gave the award back. So I never actually worked with this mentor that they put me with.
Uh-huh.
Did you pull a Johnny Rotten and just say, your award's a piss stain?
No, they were not happy with me. I mean, not at all. Though I'm still considered an alumni, I still get all the AFI stuff, which has to be a clerical error because they were not pleased with me. So anyway, cut to 3 years later, the mentor ends up being one of the 3 producers of Friends. So when he asks for the commercial yet quirky songwriter and they go, well, how about Allee Willis? He goes, fantastic. The music... That had been...
I think what he said was, is that the broad who told the AFI to go fuck themselves?
No, he was...
I want her.
He was so happy with me when I did. He said, you've got some balls.
Yes.
But that'll get you a job, though, because I want someone that's got some damn balls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knew it would lead to the Friends theme? That was unbelievable.
So then...
So Michael Skloff had written the music. It's just a 45-second thing. I get the music. They tell me, this guy, Kevin Bright was his name, who I just adore to this day. He... Have
you worked with him again? It was Kaufman and Bright,
He's one of my... Yeah. Well, it was Kaufman and Crane. And then it was Kevin Bright and then Marta Kaufman and David Crane.
Okay.
No, I mean, I saw him as recently as last week. I mean, he's remained like my champion to this day.
Awesome.
So...
how could he not?
Yeah.
Well... I can lead you to a few people who would debate you. But anyway, so he basically told me what the show was about, and they had the pilot. I'm a fastidious note taker. So it's actually...
That's the first time fastidious has been used on this podcast in 245
I think it's right there.
episodes.
Writing that lyric, which I will, after we're done, I'll stand up and see if it's there, was 34 single-spaced type pages. I wrote every possible configuration of what the verse could be, what the chorus, could be. And then literally went in. I met Kevin and Marta at a studio and literally sang 34 pages worth of, lyrics. And that was it. I had no...
Let us soak that up for a minute. Because one of the themes that when we talk to our listeners, we say things like, you got to put the work in. Everybody, you got to put the work in.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that we've always drummed. We always take a moment when we talk to somebody who's put in that work. 34 pages
I can prove
of possibilities.
Yeah.
And then you sat down and sang them.
Yeah, I didn't sing all 34 pages because you end up, if you like something, it gets carried over page to page. But I probably had 20 alternate choruses and maybe 15 alternate verses. Sometimes with some of the same lines, but kind of scrambled where they were. But no one thought that show was going to be a hit. Certainly no one thought the song was going to be a hit. But here's the thing. They were not going to have a theme song. This all happened mere weeks before the show aired. And they thought, well, maybe...
And the concept of a theme song
It was
passed.
leaving.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the last of the traditional, great theme songs.
Right.
But they thought if there was a song and if it got some radio play, it could help promote this show. So it was a complete last-minute thing. And the demo, it almost sounded like a country song. I was not into it at all, but I was going to get out of my deal. So I wrote it. I got out of my deal. And then that show exploded. The first night it was on the air.
Yeah.
And a disc jockey in Nashville, I think, taped the song from the TV, and that night played it on the air 45 consecutive minutes. Just kept playing it. And they got so many calls of, what is that song, that the record label said, okay, now let's expand it into a full-length record. And literally, that's how it happened.
Wow.
It was never meant to be a single. It actually, truthfully, it never was a single, despite the fact it was the number one airplay record of 1994. But the Rembrandts, because they didn't write it by themselves, they did
never
write
released it as
the
a
second
single.
verse and the bridge. They had a lot to do with. They did not want a song out that they didn't write themselves, and so they refused to release it as a single, which meant you had to buy the album. And so there was no money made from sales at all. Literally $0 and 0 cents.
Yeah.
So that's something else someone should know about songwriting.
Yeah.
You must do it because you're passionate about it, not because you're looking to get rich.
Well, and you look at Danny Elfman does all that great work in Oingo Boingo, but the song that everybody's heard the most is the theme song to The Simpsons.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm passionate about this. But that's what everybody knows.
And you also never know. You can think something is the greatest song. Yeah, as a songwriter especially, you have no control over what the record's going to sound like. Half the time,
you have to hand it over, and then it's going to be what it's.
I always say this. To me, the most terrifying words in the English language are, "Do you want to hear what I did with your song?" No, because I'll probably never want to talk to you again.
Wow.
No, that's completely traumatic. Every now and then, you get someone who really improves upon it. Where you think it's kind of an okay song, and then they do something magic to it, and it's like, oh my God.
Right.
Do you have an example of that?
Well, I have two songs that I think people botched up.
Okay.
that it took for me to hear them years later as an oldie where I went, oh my God, stunning. Neutron Dance was one.
You thought they botched that up?
Thought it totally botched it up. Loved the Pointer Sisters, but it was very mechanical sounding, drum machine, very much on the grid.
Yeah.
The demo of it, I remember my reel-to-reel broke, so it was mastered on cassette. And it was meant to sound like just this very loose, behind the beat almost song that was recorded drunk in a basement. I mean, that was the kind of my thinking behind the song.
And then all of a sudden,
It's
here it
very
is. It's
rigid
mechanical.
and, like very mechanical.
Yeah.
But I have more fun singing that song live than I have of any other song. And I absolutely adore the record, but it took me a couple years at least to get far enough away from the demo where I could just listen to it as a record.
Wow.
And then the other one was Boogie Wonderland.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. That we were incredibly excited that they cut it and loved all the orchestration and everything. But when Jon and I wrote that, it was really written as a song, verse, chorus. Then it would kind of go into a groove, come back to the chorus, fade out. Earth, Wind & Fire cut it as a groove, so the chorus didn't happen until all the verses were
they wiped the verses
done.
You're right.
And so as much as I liked the record, I thought that the song itself was lost. And that one, it took about 4 years, and I remember being in the car, came on the radio as an oldie, and I literally had to pull over. I was so stunned at like the brilliance of the record, which I completely missed when it came out.
Wow.
So, I was excited it was out, but I thought, man, they screwed the song up. But there you go.
How about the bridge? That bridge is so good.
Yeah.
Which is the bridge?
Oh, God.
That's the chorus. See?
All
the love in the world can't be gone. That part?
Wait. The world can be gone.
Need to be loved, can't be wrong.
Yes, that's the chorus.
That's the chorus. Yeah, that's the chorus. See, so you wouldn't even know that because it comes so late in the song.
Yeah, it's so late in the song. I always thought it was the bridge.
No, that was the chorus. That was meant to happen. Bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
And they held it back.
And
there was something to them holding it back.
Well, yeah. I mean, thank God. That's what I feel
about. And then 30 years later, you went, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Now
I'll let that one
go.
go.
I'm so proud of having written that. In the Stone, same thing. The fade, which to me is the intro and the fade are the killer parts of that song. That fade used to be the chorus. And what the chorus is in the actual song was the background vocals to the fade.
Okay.
So the background part ended up being the chorus in the song. And you got to really wait for that fade. So that was another reason why I didn't understand the importance of In the Stone. But there is a whole segment of people, well, basically it breaks down to white and black. If white people ask me what Earth, Wind & Fire songs I wrote, I'll say September. I'll say Boogie Wonderland. Black people, In the Stone. Whereas white people, they've never even heard of it. They don't know what it is. What can you do?
I'm black people.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah, I can tell.
So
We were simpatico from the very beginning.
Yep.
I walked in the house and I thought, you know what? I'm in the black folks' house.
That's it.
I'm comfortable. I can sit here and be comfortable.
That's it.
And you know what? There is something to that because when I walked in, I immediately wanted to give you a hug.
Yeah.
And you immediately gave me a hug.
Gave him a hug.
And so
and candy, a hug and candy. That's all it takes.
And a
can I say
Faygo
something?
Rock and Rye soda.
Please.
Yes. Quite a selection of candy.
Yeah.
This is not where you
Impressive.
choose between like a Snickers and a Mars bar.
This is an impressive selection of candy in a variety of locations.
Yes.
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 I mean, you want to talk about the impressive selection of candy on in the basement?
Yeah.
Or on the main floor?
Yep.
Or in the living area?
Multiple locations
Yeah.
on the main floor.
So
I don't have it here in the studio because then I would weigh 900 instead of 800.
So this is your main creation space right here?
This and the garage,
the art
which is
studio.
art studio now.
Yeah.
Those are the two. That computer in there, I can actually draw on the screen.
Okay.
So it really depends what I'm working on, where I am. But it was the very first networked house in Los Angeles, 1991, first networked house.
Because you had Mark Cuban for a partner.
Well, yeah, no, that's one thing that made him want to be my partner, that he was so impressed that I even knew what a network was. And then in 2000...
Did you seek him out, or did he find you?
I was looking for a CEO because I was told that if you have to have a company,
right, and you have to have a guy at the helm,
you need to have a CEO,
a person at the helm.
And I was meeting all kinds of like Hollywood people who they were in there early. They understood the importance of tech, but they didn't really understand what I was talking about.
Yeah. Did they understand how a tech company ran, or were you able to say, I'm going to get this CEO and he's the guy who, and they went, oh.
No, it was very similar to how a lot of people are now. You know, they just knew that they should be there.
Right.
And this chick's doing it and she's got some credit, so let's do it. But then they wouldn't do anything. He actually had ideas.
Yeah.
The rub between the two of us is that he was all about making money and I was all about making art.
Right.
There was a huge respect, going either way.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I wouldn't budge on the art and he wouldn't budge on the money. But parted extremely amicably. I just emailed him like last week, and he is someone who, if you email him, you hear from him in 5 minutes. He's a real mensch. I mean, literally what you see is what you get. But he's also a straight shooter, so he can say a lot of stuff to you that you don't like to hear.
Sure.
But if you
Still
were
going to be true.
Yeah, from a business perspective, though, he's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I knew he was right. I just wasn't willing to do what I was going to have to do in order to make money.
Yeah.
It's a theme for us we always talk about who we want to get on as a guest. And the guests that we really love are the folks who have given us some piece of our life, like you have, who maybe our audience doesn't know, unless you're Dave Agent.
Yeah.
But, oh man, he's insanely busy, I know, but it would be amazing to talk to Mark Cuban.
I thought you were going to say Sid and or Marty Croft.
Sid and Marty Croft, yeah.
I can get you Sid.
I'll take it.
I can get you Sid.
That's all I want. I want to explore that guy's brain.
Yeah.
That's a house you need to see.
Oh,
that is just like
yeah.
this, where every single thing is
every square inch of everywhere,
hand-picked, handmade, He has bar stools. They are staggering. You can't. They defy gravity. So you look at them, you have no idea how they're going to stay up. They literally go at like this
crazy
45 degree
like
angle or
a
something.
75 degree angle.
Yeah.
And you get up close, and the seat in the wood carved is Anne Margaret's ass print.
Oh my God!
Hand carved in each of the seats. It's brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like Anne Margaret.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's brilliant.
We want to respect your time and your day, and we appreciate and adore so much that you've been so generous with everything around here.
Yeah.
Well, wait till you open the drawers. It's a whole other world.
Oh, okay. We are, though, I would like to, first of all, wrangle you for a part 2, because we got to do this again.
For sure.
Cool.
What should we be looking out for from you in the next few months?
It's taken decades, but I'm obsessed with performing.
Hmm.
I call them party performances. So
wow.
I do all the songs as sing-alongs. I figure everyone knows, what I'm going to sing, they all know.
Okay.
So literally everyone sings. I'm like texting. I'm doing, all my stuff. I auction off stuff from my personal collection. So, and the bidding gets like crazy on those. There's games. There's, it's not at all a traditional songwriter show. So I want to do as much of that, as humanly possible.
Where do you have these events?
Well, my next one, mostly Los Angeles and Detroit. And the next ones I have coming up are in Detroit.
Okay.
For anyone in Detroit listening, at the City Theater in Hockeytown, May 18th and 19th. But I work for months on these shows. So it isn't that I just get up and do my thing. It's a unique show every time I go out. Plus, I'm making the sets. It's as if I'm throwing a party in the house.
Yeah, and what you really do is art direct the whole thing.
And while I'm on stage, I'm still directing and producing. We're doing something, but if the cue is off, I'm like dealing with, and everyone's out on stage. My band is the crew, basically. So I always used to joke that if I ever did perform, it would be Dina, my housekeeper, Sean, my IT, the guy that I build my art stuff with, and that is actually who it is. So I'm, in the middle of the song, I'm saying, no, move that there, do that there. So it is like you are observing creative process. I'm at the final step in this process of doing the show.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're seeing this polished, finished
not a set
thing.
show, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Very
There's
interactive.
a framework and an interaction and some improv.
Yeah, and you plan as much as you can possibly plan so that when things inevitably go wrong,
right.
You can have fun with it as opposed to be, completely traumatized. And in my shows, the funniest is when things just completely fuck up. All of a sudden there's no sound, or with the interaction that you see going on between the crew, that's as much of the show,
right?
As much a part of it.
Yeah.
So I would like to expand on that and actually hit, other cities. So that's really a concentration to try and put together a show that's not so specific to where I'm, where I'm doing it. Yeah. So that's really it. But when I say that gets me closer to my dream of trying to do everything that I do and
tie it all
spot.
together. Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, I'm doing a lot of songwriting, trying to work with artists that are of more interest to me than just working with someone because they're hot at the moment.
Who are you interested in?
There's one person that I just that we recently met, only maybe a month ago, and it was like wham. And she's a very technical artist. Like her last performance was this last weekend at NASA and the JPL lab.
Whoa.
And she's doing stuff with music. Her name's Bette Wolf.
Okay.
Bette. And her last album was a deck of cards, literally. So you get the cards and you hold them up to your iPhone, and all of a sudden, the video goes, or the lyrics fly out, or, whatever. Her album before that was a jacket, literally, a jacket that you wear. That's where I want to move. So we're going to do something together. We don't know what it is yet. We just know that we're doing it, and we're constantly...
it's going to figure itself out.
Yeah.
As you tinker and tinker.
Yeah. So I want to move more toward people who not just I can write a good song with, but that the implications of it are far beyond music. The song is at the heart of it. If the song doesn't work, you got nothing.
Right.
But where
we
we can do more things. And I'm very overdue for a party.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, the very last party I threw was a year ago.
Wow.
It was a Detroit party. It was to raise money for a group in Detroit called Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit. Really, like the most talented kids from all the schools all over the city. And it was unbelievable. Backyard full of Detroiters with a lot of like stars kind of thrown into it. But it's been a year. So, and my parties take me 6 to 8 months to plan.
Jeez.
Wow.
So literally every single everything is curated. Everything's handmade. Everything.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah. So
what a fascinating life.
Yeah, indeed.
Fascinating and traumatic at the same time.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, you don't get
So-
to have it easy and have what you have.
Yeah.
It's got to be
No,
an
if I
adventure.
had it easy, I would have gone a totally different route.
And you would have been far less interesting.
Yeah, well, that's true. I guess that's true. And Detroit, I remain like seriously involved in. Motown, this is one thing that we didn't discuss that's really at the heart of it. Because when anyone says to me, like, where did you learn to write?
Mm-hmm.
I used to have my parents drop me off, or once I got my license, drive down to Motown, which was one little house. And I used to sit on the front lawn, and you could see all the stars walk in and out. But more importantly, you could hear through the walls. You could hear bass, you could hear drums, you could hear background vocals. So I would learn parts without knowing what the record was.
Yeah.
But I could hear that, the bass does one thing and the drum does this.
Everything had its role.
Yeah.
And you got
and
familiar
it was
with the
about
strategy
space.
of it all.
Yeah, that it was all about space. But I never went into Motown. It was strictly on the outside, but I was so proud to be from Detroit because it was really in the years that Motown was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So cut to all these years later, I did get to go into Motown finally once when September came out because the Detroit Free Press did, like a local girl makes good story.
Right.
And they asked me if I wanted to film it inside the Motown studios.
Yes, of course.
So I got in.
Right.
But then when we did the D, my big Detroit project, we actually became the first people to actually record in there for like decades.
Wow.
I mean, we brought our own equipment in, but we actually performed, recorded there.
In the room.
Yeah. But then lately, just within the last few months or so, I can't even remember how, maybe it was 6 months ago, I met the woman who's currently the CEO of Motown. Her name's Robin Terry, and she's Berry Gordy's niece.
Mm-hmm.
So we became great friends. I got to be great friends with everyone there. And for my birthday this last year in November, I was in Detroit. It was perfect because the Color Purple was at the big theater there. So that, I did that at night took all my friends. But during the day, Robin said, have you ever been to the Motown Museum, which is what the house is? There's one little house next door.
Yeah.
A brilliant tour. If anyone listening has never been on, you have to go on the Motown tour. So I'd never been on the Motown tour. And so she said, okay, let's do that during the day. And I don't want to give you a private tour. Come when everyone is here, which really is the way to see it because you're walking through a little house and you've got all these people who are passionate about Motown.
Yeah, you get to experience it together.
Yeah, and you're like next to Marvin Gaye's suit. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the tour starts out and it's a little film. It's a 16-minute film, like the cutest thing you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So right before the film, Robin comes. She's now a few houses down, but comes, into the thing and says, we know that Motown means so much to almost everyone who comes through here. But there's one person in particular, and then she tells the whole story of how I used to come down and I used to sit in front, and she starts naming the songs that I've written.
Wow.
And all they need to, I mean, they're already dead at September, but, she keeps like going on. And then
because you kept going on.
Right.
And then the whole place sung me happy birthday.
Oh.
So for that to happen inside Motown, oh my God. Anyway, I started telling you that, not because that was just one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me, but they now have finally acquired the whole block of all these little houses and the block behind. So they're raising money now to build a huge Motown complex that'll have everything from a theater, a school, like all kinds of things in it. So I'm going to be very involved.
That is terrific.
Yeah.
That is terrific for Detroit.
Yeah.
That is terrific for Motown.
Yeah.
That's terrific for everybody.
Yeah, and doing a lot of stuff in Detroit. I think like 50% of me still is in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So as much as I can do there, and then 50%.
Well, Detroiters who come out here never really leave Detroit.
Never.
Yeah. That's the one thing about, I know people who I find out years later, oh, you're from Cincinnati. Okay, that's great. And Cincinnati has a bunch of loyalists too. Oh, you're from Indiana. Great.
Detroit's
Detroit.
different.
Detroit is different from
Because
everybody
we
else.
have been pissed on for so many years
Yeah.
that you feel such a fierce loyalty. You know, and now it's very hip to say Detroit because it is rebounding incredibly fast.
Well, and it has rebounded artistically and
Serious.
endured.
Yes, endured artistically.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Have you ever met Bob Seger?
I've never met Bob
Oh,
Seger.
man. I'm a big fan of Bob Seger.
Never met him.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to meet Bob Seger.
We're going to
We do.
We're going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to find Bob Seger.
Yeah.
We're going to go meet Allee Willis. Let's go.
We
There
have
you
a
go.
weekly segment that we do on our show. It's called the Album Fight. And so what we do is we line up two albums as if they're boxers. And we have a fight card. And then we judge round one. And we score it like a boxing match. And so what it does is it forces us to listen to the albums differently because we now have often a tremendous emotional attachment to a song.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always win. And so now you're conflicted because I've loved this song but against that song.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the songs where we thought, well, that's not that great. Suddenly that becomes the one that carries the album.
The filler songs, and I use that term respectfully, but the floor of the album is really where the work is.
That typically is what decides it.
Because the pinnacles are pinnacles.
Yeah.
But then you're like, but look at these songs where, and it's been fascinating to like, look at the drum fills in this song. I'd never realized them. And look at the lyric, and all of a sudden you're just re-immersed in these songs, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Well, also back in the day, you would, as you were recording them, you were treating them all as singles. You know?
Yeah.
There may have been an obvious one, but it was never like, this isn't that important. It's just filler.
Yeah.
It's like you're going for 100 every single time.
Right.
You know?
Well, and then the idea, right, is to record, write 100 of them, record 30 of them, and then pick the best 9. But the thing that happened recently was we got, and then typically what we'll do is we have this group of really loyal listeners who chime in quite a bit, and then we get a sense of who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So we'll invite them either to do a phoner or if they're in the Bay Area or in LA to come in and be the guest judge. Because what happens
is fun.
Sometimes, I mean, if there's a tie, then what do we do? Well, there'd never be a tie because we bring in a third person.
Yeah.
So
no, that's great.
what happened recently was we had a third person, my friend Scott Burford, our friend Scott Burford. And he did a great job. So we started talking about, well, we'll have to have you on again. And what should we do? What albums should we just put on the list of stuff that we need to do? And one of the ones that we've been trying to find an even match for was Peter Frampton. Frampton Comes Alive.
Yeah.
And so what matches up with, and we didn't even finish the sentence before he went, Live Bullet.
Is that Seger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So, it sort of reawakened.
So have you done it? You did
Not
it,
yet.
though?
Not yet. Yeah, we just had that conversation.
That Frampton
last
Come Alive,
weekend.
I wasn't that, first of all, if you were white, I almost didn't notice you. By the way, I'm white, for anyone who's listening.
Funky white lady.
Frampton, I knew how massive he was, especially that album.
Yeah.
And I knew the big, singles, but I never knew the album.
Right.
But probably the same with Seger. I always knew the singles.
It's one of those things where it's the same kind of deal. They were both double albums. They were both live double albums.
Yeah.
They both had enormous hits.
Yeah.
And then there's the rest of a live double album.
Yeah.
So we're going to see how it shakes out.
Yeah. Today we're going to go with Jay Moore, the comedian.
Oh, I like him.
Yeah, he's great. But we're going to go over there, and he's from Jersey, so we're going to do Springsteen's Darkness on the Edge of Town.
Bon Jovi.
Against Aerosmith Pump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Springsteen versus
So he's
Aerosmith.
going to be the judge then.
He's going to be one of the judges, and we'll go round for round.
Yeah.
And it's incredible because you have the soulful, powerful lyrics of Springsteen with the sax and keys and all the pieces against
Not a lot of space, though.
Yeah.
No.
And that's where I'm having a problem. I'm struggling with the fact that he's not leaving space.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because it creates almost a monotony.
I hear what you're saying. That things could be at one level, even though melodically, lyrically, great.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's Steven Tyler, who just wants to run around real fast and jump off the walls and sing about boobs.
Yeah.
How do you lose to that? I mean, how do you beat that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
It's
yeah,
been
it's a tough fight.
Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Will you do one with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
We'll have to banter back and forth and talk about which ones we want to do because we have an epic and we can't do one where you've written songs on.
No.
So there's no album in the world.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That really whittles it down. So
God.
just to button up,
Yes.
our guest today
Sure.
is the eclectic, the
Prolific.
and the amazing
White.
and the the kooky white lady, Allee Willis, visual artist, conceptual artist, probably
Internet
most
icon.
known internet icon, probably most known as a songwriter. And thanks for coming on the show.
My
I love
pleasure.
you. I love
Yeah,
you.
this
Well,
was
vice
great.
versa, my 2 new boyfriends.
Yes. I love it.
Will do. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.